What's up, guys? It's good to see all of you. This is very exciting for me. Shout out to Zach, Jen, Megan, and everybody who put this together. A lot of work goes into this. So what we're going to talk about today is something I'm really passionate about, which is personal development. And the reason I'm passionate about that is because for the longest time, I felt like I was out of control of my life. I had no idea how to get more educated. I had no idea how to make more money. I had no idea how to get healthier. I had no idea how to improve the relationships I had with my family, with my friends. And the thing that changed that for me was getting access to education online. I was like a newborn baby. I had no idea once I graduated high school that you could get access to education elsewhere. And when I found it, I totally dove into it. And so that's what we're going to talk about. So, well, I just pretty much covered that. We're also going to go over some tactical sales stuff. And it's super intertwined, okay? My belief is that I'm not really the most polished sales rep, but the more personal development I've done, the easier sales, communication, and business has gone for me. When I met Zach, he hired me, I went through the course a little bit, and Zach said your personal problems manifest inside of your business. And I truly believe that, and that's like the one thing that I've always kept with me that I learned from him. And it's the same thing in terms of personal development. Like the more you develop yourself, the more your business is going to develop. So who am I? I'm Anthony. I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. If you guys have seen the TV show The Office, that's where it's at. I've never actually watched that show. I'm 28. I currently live in Miami. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a rapper. And as many of you know, I've been a closer and a coach at PTBI for the last 3 years. I've taken close to 10,000 high-ticket sales calls since 2021. I've generated just about $10 million in high-ticket sales for PTBI, other coaching programs, marketing agencies, and my own consulting company. And I've coached a lot of you guys and hundreds of other people in sales, and I've gotten to meet so many amazing people through this industry. And that's why I love this industry. Like I said, I felt stuck, and once I learned about online education, it completely changed my life. I started off where all of you guys are at. I started off in your chair on the sales call across from a guy that looked like me telling me to join a program. And I bought it. And that's the reason I'm here. It's because I got closed, because I had to get closed. If somebody sucked at their job and they didn't close me, I wouldn't be in this room right now, and I might not have had a conversation with any of you guys, and you guys might not have been here. So I'm really grateful for that. So how did I get here? I grew up lower middle class in a small town right outside of Scranton. It's called Old Forge. It's like 8,000 people that look and sound just like me. All Italian people. My boy Adam's from there as well. It's the self-proclaimed pizza capital of the world. There's a picture of me. I've always been a G, as you can tell. And what was my story? I went to college. I went for physical therapy. There was no online fitness coaching back then, but that was the only thing I did. I played sports. And I dropped out, and I had no plans. Like I said, I was unaware of any other way to see success. But I knew college wasn't the route, and so I was lost. So I dropped out, and my plan was I'm going to work at Walmart, which is like, if any of you guys work there, it sucks, right? It's probably just like you drop out, you have nothing to do, you go work at Walmart, like you're feeling completely lost. And I started rapping, started taking it really serious. That's me and Adam in a studio in my grandparents' basement. That's an album I had from like 6 or 7 years ago. And that's just me just being a thug, so. But the thing is, it sounds really funny. And I used to hate telling people I make music, especially rap. Because when you tell people you're a rapper, everybody just looks at you like, first of all, they think you suck, because most people that rap suck. And secondly, it's usually like people that don't have their shit together. So I used to refrain from doing it, but that wasn't going to lead me anywhere. So Adam and I give this guy a ton of credit as well. He's been every step of the journey with me. We really had to lean into who we were. So we started throwing concerts in Scranton, and they actually got out of control. There would be like 500, 600, 700 kids there, and it was just unbelievable. And to fund our music careers, I started working a bunch of random jobs. I worked at a cemetery with Adam, liquor store, I washed dishes, I worked in pizza places, valeted at a casino. I was working at an embroidery factory where they would make t-shirts, and we had nothing to do. And we were just hustling. We were working like multiple of these jobs at the same time. And the guy looks at me and Adam, and he's like, well, there's a bunch of spools of yarn over there. Just go grab them, walk outside, and blow the dust off them, like with your mouth. Like I'm 20, 21 years old. Like, this is what I'm doing. So a lot of you guys are that age right now. You're way ahead of the game. But I knew there was potential in there, but you're stuck doing this shit. And I just want that to be a lesson for you guys, that there's always hope no matter what you're doing. There's a picture of us at one of our concerts. And then I finally thought I made it when I became a waiter. And I was making $100, $200 a night, which was a ton of money at the time. And I was working there, I was throwing shows, we were making music, we were selling merch. But I didn't really see how I was going to progress through this chapter. I remember sitting in the parking lot outside of the restaurant I was working at. And I had just dropped an album, and I sat in my car, and nothing really happened. You drop an album, and it's like I wasn't famous. Like, literally nothing happened. I'm back at work the next day, and I'm like, well, I guess like this is it. Like, I just got to keep doing this. Like, felt really, really stuck. And then COVID happened, and that was the turning point of my life. So I got laid off from that job. We couldn't throw shows anymore. All the venues were shut down. And I was sitting in my apartment, and I was paying $700 a month in rent, but I had all the time in the world to reflect. And that was a picture of me really down bad. And I sat there, and I was like, damn, my life sucks. I'm unhealthy. I wasn't talking to my parents at the time. I didn't really have any friends. I was broke, uneducated, unhappy, and I had every limiting belief in the book. And that's when I knew I needed to make a change. So I started going online, and I bought some sort of low-ticket fitness course, and I just started working out. I was doing burpees in the house, and I went down the rabbit hole of investing in myself. I learned a lot about financial literacy, which has helped me a lot inside of sales. And over the next 12 to 24 months from that point, I took out an insane amount of 0% interest credit cards, and I just started going crazy, slapping them down, investing in myself into courses, mentorships, events like this. It was, everything, mindset, business, dating, fitness, finance, cryptocurrency, everything you could think of. Like I said, I was a kid in a candy store because felt so out of control of everything I could do that once I learned that you could learn about all this shit and change your life, had to go all in on it. I hired a mentor, and he told me to get into sales. I had no idea that you could even make good money from getting into sales. I had no idea, no concept of business. He actually told me to get into sales because I had really bad social anxiety, which might shock a lot of you because I'm up here speaking right now. Long story short, it actually worked. So first, I got a job selling life insurance. That's my headshot. I worked at Mass Mutual. I really did not like that, but that led me to high-ticket sales because I kept researching sales. I said, what the hell? I took out another credit card because at this point, what does it even matter? And I slapped another $4K on it, and I bought one more program which was going to teach me how to get a really good high-ticket closing position, and I just surrendered totally to the process. At the same time, I was living in that apartment. I had some roommates. We had a lot of issues, and we lost that apartment pretty much overnight, and I had nothing to do. I had nowhere to go. I had to move back in with my family for a little bit. So the first gig I got was an outbound appointment setting role. So if you guys don't know what that is, it's a lot of cold calling. It's a lot of DMing. It's a bitch job, really, at the end of the day. So if you have your own business and you think sales is tough, it's real, like, it really could be worse, okay? So I went really hard at that because I had no other choice. I made maybe like $1,000 the first month, and I was working at restaurants. So I was working 7 days a week. I was working at night. So I would do sales all day, and then I would go to the restaurant at 4 or 5 o'clock, and I would work till like 10 or 11, and I would just do that every single day. First month I made $1,000, and I'm like, this isn't gonna cut it. Mind you guys, I'm 25 years old at this point, right? So I'm pretty old, okay? And doing that, had to take it way more serious. I made about $5,000 the next month. I got promoted to a closer, and I made $13,000 in commission my first month closing, and that absolutely changed my life. So I was doing that. I was working the restaurant. I was working at the restaurant even after I was making $10,000 a month as a closer. I did it literally till it made absolutely no more sense, and I could pretty much ensure that I would never have to go back to doing that. So I got back into my own apartment in August of that year, and I was riding high, but that business, it totally shut down overnight. It totally shut down. They got a bunch of chargebacks. It was like a TikTok ad agency. They had like $250,000 locked up in a payment processor. And I had just quit my restaurant job, so I had really nowhere to go. Get a new apartment, all your income's tied up. But I met a really special person on that sales team. a.k.a. Mr. Handsome, Brian Wilson in the back of the room. And he was the only one on that sales team that was in business before any of the rest of us. So we were actually all calling him. And he's like, oh, I don't know, dude, like, I could give you a list of other jobs to apply for. And I swear this dude had like a piece of paper that he wrote on. It was like folded up. He took a picture of it, it looked like. And it had 50 different places to apply to. And he's like, you could apply to this fitness one. And I got on a call with Zach. And now we're here. So that was October of 2022. There's a picture of me, Ryan, and Zach at Zach's birthday a couple years ago. There's a picture of me and my guy, Josh. Now I live downtown in Miami. I get to travel wherever I want, pretty much do whatever I want. I'm able to give my family money, which is amazing. And this is because I have a skill set that I went all in on that will serve me until the day I die. Now, how did I do this? Was it luck? Was it fate? Was it just the way the cards were dealt? Obviously not. I changed the way that I thought about my life. I changed my beliefs about taking on debt, about investing in myself, and about taking risks. So my goal today isn't to just leave you guys with a bunch of things to do, but to help you really start to think differently and change your beliefs about the things that you're already doing. Because that's how you're going to develop a process that will allow you to make lasting changes. And it's the same thing with sales. We're trying to align the thinking and the beliefs of the prospect with somebody that knows they need to make a change. I made this meme for you guys, right? So I love this meme. It's the bell curve meme, right? So my job as a sales professional is to align your thinking with somebody that's on either side of this bell curve, okay? In order for us to be able to do this, we need to be able to do this to ourselves first. I was having a conversation with Glenn and Ian and some other guys right before I gave this speech, and I said, you know, the objections we get are the objections we give, right? So if you want your prospects to have good, healthy beliefs, you need to have them about yourself and about your own situation first, right? So I believed through all that turmoil and all that negativity that changing my life was possible, so I gave myself the opportunity. So right now, if you want to close more people in your business, you need to first change all the areas of your life that you feel like you don't have control over, that you feel like you have limiting beliefs over, you feel stuck in, okay? So if you do that, you're not going to have to worry about objections because you're not going to get as many objections because you don't have those objections yourself. I took on mountains of debt investing in myself. I took big risks, and I worked really hard because I knew it was possible to create a better reality. So if you believe it's possible, it makes sense to spend every dollar and to take every action possible to align yourself with the result. What did Trevor say before? Trevor was also down to his last dollar, but he knew it was possible. He had to give himself the opportunity, okay? That's the belief we want our prospects to have, so we need to have it. What really helped me believe it was possible was surrounding myself with others that have already done it as well. So just by being here today, you guys did yourself a really big favor. So how can we start to change our beliefs? Your identity is what dictates your beliefs. In sales, we have this concept, it's called identity framing, right? Where we start to throw an identity at the prospect. We start to, say, oh, it's so awesome. You seem like the type of person that, you really want to take control of your situation. You really want a better situation. You seem like you don't want to be like all those people you're telling me about, those people that you work with that they just stay in their job and they don't really give themselves an opportunity because where do those people end up? They end up nowhere. And why is it important for you to not be like those people? So they're disassociating themselves from the identity of somebody that's not going to close, and they're associating themselves with the identity of somebody that's going to close. And it's the same way with yourself. You need to lean into your edge. You're not going to be amazing at everything in the same way other people are amazing at it. Example again, right? Yush, he's telling you guys to script. He has some really great advice. Trevor also blew up. Trevor's like, I don't script my shit, right? I just kind of go with the flow. You have to figure out the way that you can do that for yourself. I spend a lot of time figuring out who am I, what am I good at, what do I like doing, what do I not like doing, and how can I build a system that's conducive for me to get good at this area. Everybody has a unique combination of talents, abilities, and gifts from God, and every genius found their lane by leaning into their edge, not by trying to be somebody else. They found the most natural, innate way that they could serve others with their gifts, and they worked at their craft long enough to get good at it. For example, Ryan and I, we sell completely differently. Okay, there isn't just one way to get good. We have our own style, we have our own process. I was a college dropout. I was really pissed off that I wasn't seeing success yet from a family that had no entrepreneurs in it, and a lot of you guys are probably the same way. So I had to lean into that. There was no changing that situation. There was no getting upset about the situation, accepting it for what it is and totally leaning into it. I'm gonna have to take a really non-traditional path that hasn't been walked before. I'm gonna have to endure a lot of uncertainty with this journey to get to where I wanna be. People around me are gonna doubt, they're gonna misunderstand my path, they're gonna criticize it. I had no startup capital like a lot of you guys. That's just a realization you need to come to. There's no feelings about it. It's just leaning into it. That's what you're gonna have to do to change your situation. If you're not happy about where you're at right now in your business, you gotta figure out, okay, should you pay Yush? Should you work with Yush? Just suck it up and throw the money. And if you truly believe the result is that way, you gotta just lean fully into it or you're never gonna get there. I wanted to be a rapper, I totally leaned into it. I wanted to start a business, I leaned into it. So now that I've told you guys a lot about me, it's time for my first piece of actionable advice. You have to lean into who you are fully and stop standing on the fence. You can't walk two paths at the same time. If you guys are all here in this room right now, and you all, majority of you paid me, right, to sign up to start a fitness business, it probably means deep down inside of you, you know you're supposed to be doing it. But if you're not where you want to be yet, it's because you haven't leaned into it yet. Or if you have a checkered past and you really want to help people, you got to start speaking about that shit in your content. You have to lean into who you are. What are the actions of the most successful people in PTBI? I get that question all the time on sales calls. And everybody thinks this is a really generic answer, but I'm sure Zach would agree with me. It's the people that love coaching. They love fitness. They love coaching. They love getting their clients results. They're just absolutely just totally into that process. And they're totally into PTBI. They show up to the group calls. They reach out. They ask me questions. They ask Zach questions. They're at this event, right, you guys? They're active in the group chat. They've totally just leaned into the fact of, I joined this program. I put the money down. I'm going to lean into this, okay? In other words, it's the ones who have just fully committed to this process with their attention and with their energy to become the best version of themselves to see the best results. So that's something anybody can do. Now, when you do that, there's going to be pain. Pain is necessary. Suffering is optional. A really good mentor of mine told me that. So if you're not where you want to be yet in business, in your life, in relationships, in fitness, go through the pain of just leaning into it. Because if you're half in, you're half out, you're going to be suffering. And it's a choice. It's optional. You're creating your own suffering if you're not where you want to be in your business, if you're not making the money you want to be, by you being on the fence, and it's nothing more than that. The content, the sales, all that other shit will come together if you just totally lean into what you're supposed to do. So, the reason why I have this thinking and the reason why I'm good at sales is because of the way I think about sales first. So this weekend, you're going to hear a lot of speakers and you're going to talk to a ton of people here. And you're going to hear a lot of people giving you different ideas and a lot of shit to do. That's great, but a lot of you guys don't need more shit to do. You don't need to be doing more shit, assigning yourself more tasks. You need to think differently, like I said earlier, about the things you're already doing, about content, about sales, about business. That's all everybody's telling you. Yush provided a different perspective. Annette provided a different perspective, right? Trevor, myself, and the other speakers. We're providing you guys with different perspectives, and it's your job to take in all this information, filter it, okay, and then start to come up with a system that makes sense for you guys. So it's all about the thinking about this shit, not just leaving with the same beliefs and just trying to force yourself to do more shit if you're already having a difficult time doing the things you're supposed to be doing right now. So this is the training balance scale. I got this from Kevin Trudeau. Highly recommend you guys look that up. That's who I get a lot of, my game from. This guy sold billions and billions and billions of dollars of information, okay? But pretty much the result of anything in life is 90% of your thinking and 10% of your doing. And I'm going to prove that to you guys here. And it's the same way with sales. The biggest question I always get is, what do I say? What do I say when I get this objection? What questions do I ask? And that's very pointless, because if you start thinking differently about your sales calls, you're always going to know what to say. If you believe you're truly helping somebody when you close them into your program, you're not going to feel like you're being pushy, and you're not going to worry too much about what you're saying. You don't always need to do more role plays or practice your script or do all this other stuff. You need to start thinking differently about sales and also how to get better at sales. Okay, so rather than continuing to have beliefs that don't serve you while pushing forward, like I just said, doing the same stuff, doing more shit with the same beliefs, you're just going to tire yourself out. The result of changing your thinking will make your sales calls go a lot smoother, which will make you more money and help you change more lives. Well, Anthony, I already invested in myself, and I feel like I start to think differently, and I know about mindset. So this is cool, but can we go to objection handling and more shit? The thing is, these concepts seem so simple that we like to overlook them, right? I've watched so much curriculum on mindset, and I still feel like I don't know anything. It still really is, like you could spend, the training balance scale I just showed you guys, it seems like you could look at that and understand the concept of it in 5 minutes. But if you start to really meditate on that every time you need to make a decision in your life, you're going to understand how deep this shit really goes. So, the concepts may seem simple. I just said that. I keep getting ahead of what I'm actually already have written, right? Because I know this shit. So, first, you need to have a high willingness to change and a high willingness to learn. That's a lot harder than doing a lot of tactical shit in your business, okay? A lot of people are in PTBI and they wanted to come to this event, but they didn't make it a priority. They didn't want to spend the money, or they didn't want to make the time. So respectfully, they have a lower willingness to learn and a lower willingness to change than anybody else that's here right now. That's another Kevin Trudeau concept called the Teachability Index. It's kind of fucked up, but the willingness to learn and the willingness to change, they chose to not lean into their edge and go all in on them becoming this fitness coach that they want to be as much as everybody else here, and they chose to not give themselves a good opportunity in the infrastructure to learn and grow. They made these choices because their thinking was not aligned. So it's all about the way you think about shit is going to dictate the outcome. Because getting on the flight for all of us here, it's pretty easy. Putting $1,000 on the credit card to buy the ticket, it's pretty easy. And for most of you guys, hopefully packing your clothes was pretty easy, okay? What's difficult was expanding their mental willingness to change and their willingness to learn, because it's painful. You need to find the best way to learn that's suitable for you. I personally learn best by osmosis, by being around guys like Zach, being around guys like John Rojas, being around guys like Adam, right? Being around guys like Ryan Wilson, okay? I like podcasts. I like interviews of people that I want to be like. That helps me really mold my beliefs into the people that I want to be like, because they have this beliefs that I know I need. Some people like books, some people like courses, okay? So how does this apply to getting better at sales, especially if you don't have a lot of sales calls? If you were around guys like me, or around people that were better at sales, that would be one way, right? But another way that a lot of you guys can start doing every single day is stop thinking that you have an issue with sales. The truth is that most of you guys actually have a communication issue, okay? Like I said earlier, I got into sales because I actually had a ton of social anxiety. And then you guys all here, we've all heard this. Oh, you should learn sales because it's going to help you in all these other areas of your life, right? So we all believe that, but we don't understand how to actually integrate that, because our thinking's not aligned with the way that we think we can get better at sales. So the way that you can do that is start practicing the habits you need to communicate better on your sales calls in your everyday life, because it's the same thing, okay? Most people watch my calls and they'll say, oh, you're really just having a conversation, it seems like. And that's the point. So here's some tangible things you guys can start doing immediately to get better at sales, especially if you do not have a lot of sales calls. You can be more mindful of what you say in every single interaction. You can stop assuming in every conversation you have. If you don't know what to ask people on sales calls, it's because you don't have that communication skill. I would challenge a lot of you guys, we all have people we're really close to, right? Like I talk to Adam every single day. And it's really easy for me to probably assume I know what Adam means when we're talking. If he kind of leaves something open-ended, I could assume I know what he meant and I could fill in the rest. But if I didn't do that, right, and I played stupid, and I asked Adam, hey, what'd you mean by that? And I asked him a clarifying question. The first time I do that, and he says something that's totally different from what I thought he was going to say, that's when the light bulb goes off and you realize, like, you have a communication problem, okay? So a lot of times on sales calls, you don't know what to ask. It's not that you don't know how to ask, it's that you don't have the habit of doing that because you're assuming things. So you can start asking more clarifying questions in every conversation you have, whether that's with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your mom, your dad, anybody. Start doing it, and I guarantee you'll get way better at asking questions on your sales calls. You could start sliding into more DMs, right? Just start swiping on your friend's story. You want to slide in a stranger's DMs to sell them a course or something. Just start having more conversations regularly. Start talking to more people. Learn how to not be afraid in a disagreeable manner. What is that? Does anybody know what I mean by that? How would that translate to sales? Did you raise your hand?
Don't be defensive.
But that's objection handling, right? Not being afraid to be disagreeable in a congruent manner. That's all it is, okay? A lot of you guys are afraid to be disagreeable with somebody, and that's why you're afraid to handle objections and call somebody out for their bullshit. So why is this difficult for a lot of us to do? Because it requires you to have a high willingness to change and a high willingness to learn, which is also a high willingness to fail. What also can you do? You can have one core belief that breaks all your other limiting beliefs about sales. I believe that sales is a service. That's my one core belief. And it's easy for me because I know if I close somebody into PTBI, well, I've had this experience 3 times now where I meet people here that I've closed and they tell me, yo, thank you, that changed your life. So how could I get on a call and not feel like I'm doing somebody a favor if I'm being pushy, right? Because if somebody also didn't close me, I wouldn't be right here in front of you guys. And if Ryan, Josh, and I didn't close a lot of you guys wouldn't be here. And if you guys didn't close your client testimonials, look at all those lives that wouldn't be changed, right? So you're doing somebody a favor. It's dead? A lot of us are Christian in this room. If you're not, it's totally fine. But I don't know why that was funny. Do unto others as we would want to be treated, right? I wouldn't want to be left without help. If I really felt like somebody could help me, I wouldn't want to be left without help. So how could I leave somebody else that I know I can help without help? That's why it's important to know how to handle objections. That's why it's important to have a good belief system to not feel like you're being pushy, because you can't leave somebody without help. They have to be closed. I'm going to share with you guys a few really cool stories that go way below the surface besides just the money and the coaching of how people's lives have been changed because I've closed them, okay? There's somebody in this room that if I didn't close them and I sucked at my job, they wouldn't have met a very handsome videographer that spoke earlier today, right? If you guys don't know that story, I guess we could elaborate, right? Where is Yush? If I didn't close Madison and I was really bad at my job and I didn't push her and encourage her to take that step, she might not have met Yush. It's very possible, right? There's another story. There was a guy, he joined PTBI 3 years ago. His name was Jack Landry. He's super cool. I would encourage all you guys to follow him on Instagram. He's doing something super awesome. And I was actually in Austin at the time, 3 years ago. And I called him for the call, and I really didn't like the guy, to be honest. He was very, like, cocky. Like, he was very, like, I don't really need help. But I didn't let that, I didn't let myself be prideful. I understood that, like, he needs help, and I knew that we can help him. And so I just stayed calm with him. He didn't close on that call. And I normally don't follow up with people, like, in a crazy amount, but I called this guy probably 12 times before he closed. I closed him 2 months later, okay? He started his fitness business with PTBI, with Zach's help, with Megan's help, and he was off to a pretty good start, and then he kept working with other coaches, and he has a really big business now. And then actually, this past year, he was looking for somebody to sublease his apartment in Miami. And it was right when my lease ended, and I saw his story because we're still cool, because I closed him and we stayed connected, and I actually took over his apartment. He went to Thailand to shoot fitness content for 3 months. He came back with a wife. So I'm not saying that the reason I closed him is the reason he's married, but the point is, it's like that came back and affected my life 3 years later because I knew I could help this guy, and I knew I had to keep following up with him because I didn't want to leave him without the help. So there's a spiritual component to closing that goes beyond a few $100s, couple $1,000s. And once you've had one of these experiences, you'll never feel bad for closing somebody because you understand you're doing it from an act of service. So ask yourself the question, what's worse? Being pushy, feeling awkward, and making money by giving somebody the opportunity to change their life, or leaving that person stuck or broke knowing how much might actually be on the table? So the question, Zach brought this up before, what's the one question I ask myself to determine if I should keep pushing this person? Is this person better off joining than not? Some people I close, I don't really think they're going to do that great in business, to be honest. But they just need to spend the money. They're afraid to spend the money. I think they're better off spending the money. A lot of you guys, don't worry so much about getting people in amazing transformation. A lot of times that's on them. But are they better off in that moment getting over one of their fears and actually closing than not closing? If the answer is yes, you have to keep pushing. You have to close them. And this is the same way. We have that one belief that serves us. We need our prospect to have one belief that breaks all of their limiting beliefs. We need them to believe in needing to make a change more so than any desire to justify the countless amount of objections they can give you. There is an infinite amount of objections that somebody can give you. That's why it's super pointless to focus on objection handling. I'd rather focus on getting this person to understand, I really need to change my situation in my life right now. And if that desire is strong, they're not going to want to justify any of the objections that you can get. So, yeah, objection handling is a very low ROI activity when it comes to getting better at sales. So, the way that we change somebody's belief to create that desire of wanting to change their situation, we can't just give them that belief. The only way we can get them to have that belief is we have to prompt that out of them. The way that we prompt this out of them is by asking questions. So during a sales call, you're not being judged through your pitch. Your pitch can be really simple. People don't need to see trainer eyes. They don't need to know all the details about macros and all that shit, because that's why they're on the call, because they don't know that stuff, okay? They just want to know your competence, and we're being judged solely through the competency of our questions. If you guys went to the doctor and you broke your arm and the doctor just walked in and he just looks at you and then he gives you a prescription and he tells you to get surgery, you would think that's fucked up. He didn't ask you any questions. He didn't ask you how you broke your arm, if there's pain associated anywhere else. He didn't do any due diligence. He's displaying his competency through the quality of the questions he's asking, and that's it. And that's the same thing we need to do as coaches. So here's some tactical stuff. I'm going to give you guys the simplest way to run a discovery process on your sales calls, and I guarantee you, you will increase your closing rate a ton, okay? Section 1. You guys pull out your phones, take notes. If you're not taking notes, I don't know why you wouldn't be taking notes. So finding the problem. Why is somebody on the call? What's the problem? Just to see if we can help. What do you feel like you need help with? Okay, now they have a problem. Why do you feel like that's the problem? What is the experience of having that problem? So that's section 1, very simple. Okay. Now section 2, what's their current situation? So what do you not like about having this problem? How is this affecting your current situation? So the problem, I'm overweight and I don't know what to do in the gym. Why do you feel like you don't know what to do in the gym? Because I've been going for 3 years and I'm not losing any weight. Okay, so what do you not like about being overweight? It's affecting my energy, it's affecting my mood. I feel like I can't show up for my kids. I have a vacation, I'm afraid of being overweight for my vacation. How long has this been going on for? 5 years. So very simple. We get the current situation. Question B. Okay, so what has slowed you down over the last 5 years from taking action on getting this under control? Whatever answer they give you right here is going to be the same objection they give you at the end of the call. But now you have it in the first 5 minutes of the call. Every single time. And do you guys think it's easier to handle the objections here or at the end of the call? Yeah, right? So that's all you need to do. So for business, for PTBI, it's like you might have to change the context of this question the way you ask it. Because for PTBI, for example, I'll say, well, what do you think slowed you down from doing something like this previously? They'll tell me some bullshit, like maybe some of you guys told me this. Oh, I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know online coaching was a thing. Okay. So how long have you been wanting to make more money and not satisfied with the amount of money you make? 5 years. What do you think slowed you down from putting more intention into making more money? That's the real objection. The objection we want to get out of everybody here is that they're just not committed to their goals. They might tell you they don't have the time, but we all know that's a lie because we all have the same 24 hours. So we can reframe their belief on time. They might tell you, oh, I don't have the money. Well, what do you mean? We didn't even go over pricing yet. So have you talked to another coach and you felt like they told you a price that didn't make sense? Like it doesn't make sense. So we can reframe their belief there. We pretty much want to get them to admit they just haven't been committed to their goals. Okay? Section 3. Okay, so where do they want to go? What are your goals? Where do you want to be? How much weight do you want to lose? How do you feel like you'll be when you get there? And then section 4. Okay, it's great you know where you want to go. What's the consequences that you would face if you don't get to your goal, if you keep allowing whatever objection they gave you from section 2, if you keep allowing that to be the reason why you don't take action on that, what's the consequence of that? If you keep telling yourself you're not ready, and that's the reason why you don't take action on your fitness, what would the consequence of you continuing to make that decision be? They're going to tell you, it'd be shitty, I'd be fat for another 5 years. Are you willing to settle for that? They're going to tell you no. Is it possibly time for a change then? They should tell you yes if you've done this right. And then you're pitching, and then that's it. Because they know they need to make a change now, and that desire is so strong, and it's so right in their face, and we've examined the objection already. We've gotten over that. We've examined the consequence of them continuing to use that objection as the reason why they don't move forward. So you should get to the end of the call with really no objections. And that's all you need to do. It's literally that simple. Yeah. Let me know when you're good. You good? Yeah, we did. Okay. So, humans do nothing to achieve their goals, but they do everything to not break their standards, and your systems are what you fall back on to carry those standards. So after leaning into your edge, like I said before, now you need a system that supports who you truly are. So like a lot of successful people, I'm actually really lazy. I don't like to read. I don't like doing mock calls. I don't want to do team meetings. I don't want to do a bunch of tedious tasks. I even knew I would have such a hard time making this presentation that I built a system. I just brain dumped on a Google Doc, and then I paid Adam to put it, who paid a VA to put it into a slideshow. Yeah. So we don't rise to our goals. We fall to our standards and our systems that are supported by those standards. So you need to build systems that make it inevitable to fail. So for example, I knew I would just make money if Zach put a few sales calls on my calendar every day. Zach knew if he just put me on a few sales calls every day, PTBI would make money. That was the system. Do you have systems that make it inevitable to get done what you need to get done to get to your goals? You need to spend more time figuring this out than forcing yourself to do shit that you hate. So if you want to make 10 grand, 20 grand, 50 grand, how many calls do you need scheduled for that to happen? And then you need to reverse engineer a system and engineer the math instead of guessing. We're all grown adults doing this, operating businesses. Guesswork is for children. So all of you guys know that if your clients don't track their lifts, they don't track their macros, they're playing a guessing game, they're never going to get in shape. So why would we do that with our businesses? It's the same thing. You need to look at your data and find out how many DMs do you need to send, how many times do you need to post, how much do you need to spend on ads to book enough discovery or sales calls. And then same thing, how many discovery calls do you need to book enough sales calls? What's your average order value? All right, average order value, for you guys who don't know, when somebody buys your program, what's the average of what they typically spend per close? If you can't finish this equation by closing, the whole formula is not going to work. But these numbers will not lie to you. And if you're going to say, well, I don't have enough data to track, it still doesn't matter. That's the whole point. You need to build a system that allows you to gather this data. So a lot of you guys are like, I don't have enough calls. What's the point? I don't have enough leads. I'm not going to track my DMs. That's the symptom of the problem. The root of the problem is why is that happening? If you can't post enough, pay somebody. Pay Yush, okay? If you can't post enough, get enough leads, boost the post that you do have. Figure out a system to get yourself the data so that way you can just figure out what you need to do. This goes back to the thinking, the training balance scale. It's the way that you're thinking about everything that actually dictates the results you're getting. So thinking about it strategically can be way more important than doing the wrong inputs repeatedly over and over again, especially when you have Zach and the coaches as your guides. Because ultimately, your systems are going to determine your progress to your goals more than anything else. You need to be tracking. Zach has spreadsheets for everything. He has dozens of spreadsheets. He also has a business that generates millions of dollars per year. Do with that information what you will. So part 3 of my speech here, what's the financial value of a close? This is going to go back over, this goes back to what we just went over. What's the dollar amount, the actual number in USD of fixing these problems in your business? Well, I think that really depends on what's the lifetime value of your client. So for example, if you sign somebody up for $300 a month and most of your clients stay for 6 months, that would mean the lifetime value of your client is $1,800. If you don't know that number, you should definitely figure that out. Okay? Do you guys like referrals? Who here likes referrals? Yeah. They're laydowns typically, right? Yeah. Every client that you sign up, how many referrals do you get? I would say, I asked Zach about this, I feel like probably for every 3 clients you sign, you probably get a referral, most of you. Does that sound accurate? Yeah, pretty accurate? Okay. So every time somebody doesn't make it from a DM to a discovery call, or from a discovery call to a sales call, or from a qualified sales call they don't close, what's the amount of money that your business is missing out on every single year? If that happens multiple times per week, per month, or per year, it's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's a lot of people in here that still want to go full-time in their business, want to make more money. These are the problems you need to solve. So I have this spreadsheet that I made. I'll go over quickly with you guys. Okay? We have a few different scenarios. So we have discovery calls. Okay? Let's say you booked 30 discovery calls for that month. You scheduled 80% of them to be sales calls. 24 of them showed. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. You scheduled 24 discovery calls. Wait, let me look at this real quick. Hold on. You had 30 discovery calls, 24 scheduled sales calls, 14 live calls, and you had 4 clients, okay? And then that's also factoring in, like I said, for every 3 clients you sign, you get 1 referral, okay? So what you're actually leaving on the table when you don't get somebody through this process that you think you can, it's not $300. It's a lot more than that. If you factor in the lifetime value, it's $2,300, okay? If you do that multiple times per week or per month, this number is astronomical for most of you guys. And I showed a difference here, okay? We don't have a lot of time. I'm kind of running shorter on time to go through this, but I want to show you guys the difference. This is only taking into somebody paying you $300. There's no PIFs in this, nothing. So just look at the difference here between, getting 4 people across the line versus 6 people. It's about $8,000 annually. And that's just factoring in it's only $300 that somebody's paying you. It's a lot more than that. And that's the same amount of leads total. So if you're like, I have 10 discovery calls this week and only 3 of them showed up, but I feel like 6 of them could have showed up, how much are those 3 people worth? That's the value of that problem that you're going to solve in your business. If you guys want this, I have a QR code. You could, take a picture of that and do this for yourself. All right, everybody's good? Cool.
Make sure to make a copy of it.
Yeah, make a copy of it. Make a copy of it. All right, we'll get it to you. So most of us don't look at these problems like that. We just get pissed off about it. We just say, oh, wow, people aren't getting into these discovery calls. They're not going to the sales calls. And we just get mad. But the thing is, if you start to look at these things like problems that are worth $20, $30, $40, $50,000 a year, it becomes a game. They're supposed to be difficult to solve because look what they're actually worth. They're worth tens of thousands of dollars. I have another meme for you guys. Zach, this is Zach's favorite meme. So remember earlier when I said I wasn't happy with my position in life, but I leaned into my edge and I believed my life could get better? It made sense to do anything and to throw any dollar amount at these problems to solve because I knew what these problems were worth. The good news is, in business, majority of the time, these problems only need to be solved once. You only need to get good at content creation once. Yes, you'll have dips. You only need to get good at sales once, okay? So do whatever you need to do that's necessary to fix these problems by leaning into your edge because the reward for solving these problems is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. And quite frankly, guys, in my opinion, being a business owner, it's really not worth the effort to only make $5,000 to $10,000 per month. Because if you own a business, your income isn't capped, and you can just give yourself a raise whenever you want. It's the truth. If you want to coast, that's what a 9 to 5 is for. If you want the work to be worth it, you need to lean into your edge and accept the price you need to pay in the short term. And the currency you'll have to pay with will be your time, your energy, your money, or the bank's money, credit cards, to fix your business so you can make it worth it. There's a guy in this room, he's standing right there, his name's Zach, right? And he spent $100,000 in ads campaigns before he made a single dollar back. It's a lot of money, right? The reward for solving that problem was worth millions of dollars. So instead of getting frustrated, he just kept paying mentors and kept looking for information and kept trying shit because he knew the value of this problem in his business. Also consider that none of us would be here in this room potentially if Zach didn't solve that problem. So some of these rewards are greater than money too. I actually want from the frame. Because if you're not getting these outcomes, that means, okay, I'm not doing this part of the call properly. You guys want to know where you're fucking up your sales calls? If you break each sales call down and you figure out the outcome you want from each part of your sales call, if you're not getting that outcome at that part, that's going to let you know that's the part you need to focus on. All right, thank you guys for listening to this. I'm going to do a Q&A. This is going to be uploaded to YouTube, so if you guys want to watch this again, you could scan this QR code and subscribe to my YouTube channel. 5 minutes. All right, we got 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions, really quick?
The willingness to
the willingness to learn and the willingness to change.
Can somebody increase those things?
Exactly. It's variable, right? Like if you didn't want to come to this event, just for that decision, you had a lower willingness to change and a lower willingness to learn, right? So it's a scale. If you guys look that up, it's called your teachability index, okay? And so it seems like a simple concept. Oh, I want to have a high willingness to learn and change. But when you start making decisions and you question yourself on your teachability index before every decision you make, it's going to allow you to make better decisions. Does that make sense?
So I'm thinking of that from the client's perspective, right? Like if
Yeah.
the client doesn't have that, although they know they need it,
Yeah.
do you think somebody has the ability to increase that within themselves?
Yeah, so that's our job. It's like, okay, I need my lead right now to have a higher willingness to learn and a higher willingness to change. So how do I prompt that out of them? What questions do I need to ask now to get them to have a higher teachability index? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we have like a process, Disco in sales. I know PTBI, there's setters and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like the first time you're talking to a lead. How would you differentiate the process of discovery in the discovery call and the sales call? Because oftentimes I find it can be a little repetitive.
Yeah, so I know there's going to be different opinions on this. My opinion of discovery calls, it's really to just break the ice. Because if you're DMing somebody, you know, it's a big commitment a lot of times for them to want to jump on like a 60-minute sales call. They're going to feel like you're going to pressure them. It's really to just get on a call, have a conversation. My discovery calls, they're 5 minutes. It's like, hey, how you doing? Good to connect with you. Like, you know, I frame the call. I frame that there's going to be a second call every time. Hey, I just want to connect for 5-10 minutes, learn a little bit more about where you're in your journey right now. And then I could tell you a little bit more about how we might be able to work together. If you're interested, we could have a second call where we'll go over, you know, what my program looks like, pricing, there's no pressure. Does that sound good? They'll say, yeah. I'll just ask them literally questions about themselves. I won't do a deep disco. It's just to break the ice. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to draw out that much pain because I'm just going to do that on a sales call. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So how do you go in depth about your program at all?
So if we go, what's a sales call, right? It's rapport, frame, discovery, pitch, right? So a discovery call is a condensed version of a sales call. There's not supposed to be a pitch, so there's no reason to pitch. So you frame the call telling them, hey, I just want to learn a little bit more about, you know, where you're at right now in your journey. Ask them a couple questions. Ask them if they've ever worked with a coach. If you want to learn a little bit more, we could definitely schedule a second call that's more formal, that's on Zoom, and go over the details. Yeah.
Okay, so how do you go about, like, once you overcome the objections are there, how do you go more about collecting more cash up front? Like, more often?
So, oh yeah, somebody said, I think Turner's told me, thank you for this. So, in fitness, a lot of you guys, you have like a PIF price and then you have a monthly price. So you'll say, oh, it's $3,000 for 12 months or $300 a month, and you'll present both options. I don't think there's any reason to do that. It really just depends on what you want. If you're focused on growing your recurring revenue, okay, pitch the monthly option. If you want to collect more cash, just pitch the PIF price. And if they can't afford it, then you can start downstepping and asking them and handling that more logistically. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also getting financing, like Affirm, Klarna, and learning how to use that. You had a question?
I just wanted to add to something that he had said. My name is John. I haven't met any of you. Hopefully, by the end of the weekend. He had mentioned something about on the closing and worrying about how can I help this person. I had talked to someone earlier and they said, how did you get? Because I was stuck at about $15,000 months for probably like 6 months or so. And I said, how did you break out of that? The next month, I think I had 15. The next month, I had 50. The moment you stop focusing and going to the call and saying, I really need this money. Like before you get on the call, a lot of you are probably getting there and you're like, I really need this, I'm behind on bills. The moment you stop worrying about that and you worry about actually giving a shit about the person you're speaking to, you will make more money. Because the moment the person gives you an objection, in your mind you're immediately in the scarcity approach of, okay,
Yo,
this
it's
person
so
might not
hot in
give
here,
me the money, how do I go about this so they do?
81.
Go about it from like, I know I can help this person, and you guys know what you're doing. You are literally you're giving them a disservice or doing them a disservice if you do not. If you do not sign this person, you are doing them a disservice. And that's how you need to approach it. That's how you're convicted in what you speak about and how you go about your calls. Otherwise, if you go about it by just the money, they will sense that. But like, I've had people who don't close, they'll message me and they say, hey, your sales rep was a little pushy. I'm like, no, my sales rep has lost 100 pounds with me. He knows that what I do fucking you didn't sign up because you're 50 pounds overweight, and you've never spent any money on yourself, and that's what the issue is. I don't care if my sales rep is pushy because I know he's convicted in what he's selling. If you guys are